What's your actually I am the manager story? I ran to an ice cream shop. I must have had to say actually, I am the manager at least once a week. My favorite was this woman I eventually banned from the shop. She would come in with her husband and shitty kids. Then she would try to order a large 3 scoops and ask me to put it in 3 single scoop cups, but only charge for the large. I said no. You either order 3 single scoops or you order a large. The difference in cost is quite a bit, but it's fairly standard for companies to do it this way. I wasn't having it. She got prissy that I wouldn't do it. First, she said, well, the manager let me do it last week. No, I didn't, I told her flatly. Well, then whoever was working let me do it, and they said they were the manager. No, they didn't. I believe my workers over you. Well, I want to talk to the manager. I am the manager. You are talking to me. I said no. Fine. And she and her little family stormed out without any ice cream. No skin off my back. She was rude to me and my workers. I wasn't going to let her treat us that way. Then she proceeds to call the shop the next day, when I am working again. As the manager, I worked a lot. She said, hello, I need to speak to the manager. Speaking. How can I help you? I was in there yesterday and some little bitch lied and said she was the manager, but she wouldn't let me get what I wanted. That bitch was me. You're banned from our location. Don't come back. Bonus Justice Boner. She tried to call corporate to report me. Corporate outsources complaints to the manager with the highest rating in the area, which was me. So, when she called the corporate to complain about me, she also got me. I wrote up the details of the conversation and forwarded all of her messages to the district manager, and he agreed with my decision and allowed me to send her an email officially banning her from the store. I was the manager at Ebb Games back in the day. This was probably about 2000 to 2001. I was there for the launch of the PS2 and Diablo 2, 2 biggest events I can remember. We had an older lady come in one day and wanted to return a system she had bought for her son. She claimed he had gotten bad grades in school and was returning it as a punishment. She handed me this ridiculously old and beat-up cardboard box. I opened it to find a dirty, dusty Cheeto fingerprint-covered PS1. I knew that the original PlayStation launched in 1994, and now I feel super old, so what I was looking at in the box was at least 6 years old. I paused, looked back at her, and for whatever reason asked if she had the receipt. She actually did. Sure enough, it had the date printed on it, and it was from some time in '94. I still hadn't said anything more. I was just looking at the mess in front of me when she spoke up and said something along the lines of, and I'll just take the cash back, that will be fine. I laughed, which was probably my first mistake, and said, I'm sorry, but I don't think I'll be able to return this. This is 6 years old, and clearly used. She tried to argue that she had bought it here at this store, and the manager at the time told her she could return it for any reason, and went on this crazy diatribe about her kid being bad, etc., etc. It went on for a good 5 to 10 minutes. When she was done, I just flipped the receipt over and read her the Ebb return policy. 30 days from date of purchase for unopened merchandise, etc. She completely lost it. It escalated so quickly I contemplated calling mall security, and the police. She wasn't having it. Then I told her she could sell the system back to us. It was worth about $40 at the time, which would have given her something, but she wasn't biting on that one. She asked for the manager, demanded to see the manager, wouldn't rest until she told the manager how rude I had been. I was pretty much a saint for most of this, and was going to get me fired. I just pointed to my name tag, and in the most satisfied tone humanly possible said, lady, I am the manager, and there's no way on God's green earth that I'm returning an opened, 6-year-old, clearly used dirty PlayStation. She stormed out, never to be seen again. It was glorious. Not me, but I got a couple that I've picked up from other truck drivers shooting the breeze at restaurants. Both guys were owner-operators that also owned their own trailers, so they ran fully solo and just picked loads from a board, instead of hauling company trailers, and going where dispatch asked. The first guy gets loaded, and after the Ford truck driver hands him the load paperwork, he demands a lumper fee for the loading. Driver says no. The contract the load broker signed clearly states broker pays all loading and unloading fees, so call them about it. Well, they call, and the broker starts humming and hawing about it with the shipper, holding the driver for ransom basically. The driver gets fed up and tells the broker he's bailing on this load, since they've wasted X number of hours, also a breach of the contract they signed with him, and he tells the shipper to unload him so he can leave. The shipper lady gets combative and threatens to call his company. He says alright then, go ahead. She calls and his cell phone rings. He answers and shouts, my fucking truck, my fucking trailer, get your shit out of it. The second guy runs refrigerated freight, gets a load from a broker, they sign the contract he sends them without any fuss. The load is ice cream. In the contract he sent, it clearly states, paraphrasing, I don't like to sit and wait for loading unloading. If a shipper or receiver takes longer than 2 hours, you, the broker, pay me $500 per hour, within 24 hours, including the first 2 hours of waiting. So, the shipper takes an hour and a half to load 2 pallets. He's getting antsy about sitting so long, and goes in to check on why they're so slow, and the place is empty. He goes around the front of the building and knocks on a window where someone is working inside. They say "Horoho yeah, shipping has left for the night. They'll finish loading you in the morning." This doesn't fly with him, so he calls the broker and reminds them of his contract terms. It's been 2 hours now. If there's not a check deposited to my account within the next hour for $1,500, and this shipper gets their 4-truck guy back out here and finishes loading now, I'm bailing. Broker says there's no chance they'll pay him anything at all for the wait, contract be damned, so he pulls away from the dock and shoves out the 2 pallets of ice cream and leaves. The shipper later sued the broker for lost product and delaying that load. Broker sued driver. Driver counter sued for breach of contract and failure to pay plus all legal costs, and he won. The broker paid out the noise because they didn't read the contract. Guy hauls heavy equipment and gets a bulldozer that needs to go somewhere in Nick back in the 80s. Has a police escort once he's off the highway and into the city. Gets to about a block from the destination and can't make a turn right angle right-hand turn with cars parked on both sides of both streets. Cop surveys the situation for a few minutes, sighs and asks, how sturdy is your truck? Guy's truck is triple framed with solid steel front bumper, won't even ring if you kick it. Cop says see those cars parked on that red paint? That's a fire lane, no parking. Push me out of the way. Guy said the first few got pushed aside by the truck, the ones nearest the corner got gouged by the bulldozer blade hanging off the side of the trailer. Cop was writing tickets and leaving them on windshields the entire time. I managed a grocery store in high school. It was a small place with 2 registers up front, and the manager had one at the service video rental counter. There were a number of times where I'd be covering a register for someone's break and get an unruly customer who demanded a manager. I'd tell them I would call the manager over to the counter for them. I'd walk right over with them, open the locked door to the office, and come out to the counter with a shit-eating grin and a, how can I help you today? Dude, holy shit, this just happened the other day. Old man comes in the pizzeria I manage. Doesn't say a thing to me, just hands me a piece of paper with numbers on it. We have a rewards program, and I assumed it was his code for a free pizza. So the first thing I said was, oh, is this your code for the VIP pizza? And he says yeah, but I want a sub with chips and a drink. And I said, sir, this code is only for a large pizza with 2 toppings. And he starts to throw a little geriatric bitch fit, and of course I stand my ground because fuck this guy. And he starts looking behind the counter as if to get my insider's attention, and I quickly redirect him to me saying and I'm the manager, so you can talk to me if you have a problem. And he basically demanded his free sub, and I wouldn't give it to him because 1, as far as I knew this code was only for a free pizza, and 2, he was a rude ass motherfucker, and I'm not going out of my way for him. Sure, I could give it to him for free, but how are you that old and still don't understand courtesy and manners? He ended up taking the pizza. Damn right. I was working in the local dairy. A lady came in wanting to buy some chewing gum. She didn't have enough on her, so she went to go get some more money out of her car and tried to take the gum with her. I asked her if she could leave it inside while she went and get more money. She got highly offended, asked to speak to the manager and all, and then stormed out. Later that day she called the owner of the dairy, who told her I was only doing what I was told. The next day the gum lady rang me and apologized. Close. Was working at a chain bookstore in the same town that the CEO lived in, and he would frequently come into our store to get things. Had a customer blowing up at me over a return and that an exception should be made, because he knows the CEO really well. They go way back. Not the first time I've heard similar things. It didn't help that he got the CEO's first name wrong. I wish I could have some sort of memento from this, but the CEO was in this store that day. The CEO was in the very line for the registers that annoying customer was holding up with demands to return something he didn't buy from us. I knew the customer was full of shit since they had the name wrong and ignored his good friend in line. So it was nice to ask why he didn't say anything to his pal. It was nice when the CEO came up to us at the registers to ask if they needed help, and it was nice to have two store managers stand there, confirming that he was talking to the CEO, and was caught in the lie of knowing the CEO to demand a return. I used to work in the box office for an MLB team. The actual manager was usually extremely busy and couldn't easily respond to issues at 15 different windows, so we frequently pretended to be each other's managers. It was the easiest way to get back up when an annoying customer would not accept one of our policies. On one night I was helping a very drunk customer who refused to accept a policy. I don't remember exactly what it was. He asked to speak to the manager, but he and everyone else around me were crazy busy. So, I turned my back on the customer, turned back around, pretended to be a different person, and backed myself up. He accepted this without issue and went on his way. Worked at a repair shop as a youngling, 20-ish, looking tennis. The old farts never gave me respect. They came in, I greeted them, and they immediately went to the other old fart behind the counter to ask basic questions that I could easily answer. Well, the other old fart behind the counter was busy, and a new hire, and I had seniority, though not manager. They asked about the price for a brake line repair. I told him that I would have to inspect the vehicle first, so I could give him an accurate estimate, but he insisted on a rough estimate. I gave it to him, and he shook his head now and laughed, looking at the other old fart. I told him, he can't help you. This is the average price. Could be more, could be less. The other old fart told him that I was right, and he left. Still leaves a bitter taste in my mouth when old farts judge me based on my age, thinking I don't know anything. Army lieutenant. Mid-20s but looked like a late teen. Accosted by a new sergeant major, 6'4" loud angry black guy, during physical training, not wearing any rank. Hey you. Camera. Yes sergeant major. I'm not standing at parade rest when he's talking to me, which irks him. What is this? Are we buddies? I smile and shake my head. I think what you mean to say is, are we buddies, sir? Someone chimes in, that's Lieutenant ROUGHNECK16, Sergeant Major. Oh. He salutes me, I salute back, and I'm back on my way. I got crap all the time for looking young while in the army. I work at a science company. Only woman manager. Since we usually deal with customers via email or phone, everybody dresses very casually, jeans, t-shirt. Once, a postdoc from the local university decided to stop by the office to see if he could get some stuff for free. I was the first person he accidentally ended up talking to, and when he asked if he could speak to the manager, I answered, that's me. How can I help? His response was, no, the manager. Who do I talk to about getting X, Y, Z product? No matter what I said, he was not convinced until it took 3 separate people to confirm who was. For some reason he got annoyed, and just left. It's a very mixed bag because. Could be because I was wearing a Sailor Moon t-shirt, a woman mid-20s, but looking younger for an accent. Take your pick. I was an auto parts store manager. In that retail setting, you don't see too many female employees, and when some customers come in, female customers usually being the bigger offender, they want to talk to a male employee. In this case, I was working with another employee, a female manager, when a guy came in and started asking her questions. He clearly knew little, as he was the one asking questions. Our female manager was answering them, but the guy didn't like or believe the answers coming from her. I was in the back around the corner but listening to the conversation. The guy said she clearly couldn't help him, and he needed to talk to a man. I came out from around the corner about this time, and the customer came down to the register where I was standing. He started asking me questions about parts, and I told him, that is a good question. Let me ask our expert, and I called over our female manager. The customer got all huffy and said we were running a 2-bit store, and that we didn't know anything. He told us he'd visit our competitor and then left. That coming from the guy asking the questions, not giving the answers. I really don't like those kinds of people. I'm 30F with tattoos and I've been in management since I was 18, so I'm used to it, but this one was funny and just happened. My whole admin team hit one of their big goals a couple months ago, so I took them to the spa as a reward. Making small talk with the person taking care of the event, I explained why we were there, and he said, "Oh, how's the manager handling everything without the whole office there? He must work you ladies hard." So, I got to reply, "Well, I run the place, and I'm handling things just fine, but thanks for the concern." I was working as the shipping manager at an aluminum remelt facility. We usually shipped SOs, 1200 to 1800 pounds ingots basically. My department was always understaffed and I had the biggest fastest forklift in the department parked by my office, so I'd usually load trucks myself, while my guys were trying to prepare stage loads. Truck goes through security and all that jazz, gets back to me, and the driver decides he's not going to wait for me to get over there. He's just going to rummage around and try to find the switches to open the gate and roll up door. Walk in on random driver rummaging around my office, basically trying all the buttons like an idiot. Ask him to go sit in his truck, as our insurance company doesn't allow for drivers to be out of their truck. He gets all posy, can back up for shit, but eventually gets to the dock kind of crooked but workable. Gets back out of the truck to help me load it. Tell him no, he needs to sit in the truck, and he starts flipping shit, so that he won't let some dumbest kid, I was 22, load his truck, so he can get a ticket blah blah. I grew up with trucking so I kind of understand his point, tell him fine, but he needs to stay behind a giant yellow rail. So, I start loading the truck with my usual pattern. I know what the load weighs, and what each stack of materials I'm putting in weigh, so I'm using a pattern that will make the truck legal and symmetrical. He's bitching the whole time he doesn't like how I'm loading it. Tell him that if he doesn't want me to load it this way fine, I'll stack it however the hell he wants, but I'm not going to adjust or anything after the fact, he'll have to live it. He demands to speak to my manager, explain I am the manager. He calls me a fucking liar, and calls the phone number listed for shipping manager on his paperwork. Cell phone rings in my pocket, and he backs off a bit and chuckles that he thought I was just a kid. Get the truck loaded his way, which probably had close to 40k on the drives, and he goes to our scale. That doesn't give axle weights, only gross, so he comes back and wants me to adjust a little off the drives just to be safe, which would mean unloading and reloading the whole truck. I remind him he demanded it loaded this way, and I have other trucks to load so no. He starts flipping shit again, and I tell him that there's a truck scale down the about 5 miles, and they can axle it. He's kind of happy with this info and that it's close and leaves. That scale is the state DOT scale. Got a call the next morning because he was trying to stick us with the ticket. It didn't work, but it was hilarious. That's the story in as small a nutshell as I can manage. Guy was there almost 3 hours just bickering over every little thing. And wanting things moved a couple inches on the truck. I worked in retail, specifically at a specialist bra fitting shop. One day I was working the change room desk upstairs, taking bookings for fittings, and helping the tenor sew customers in the rooms for people who didn't need a fitting, but needed me to just quickly check things sometimes, and fetch different sizes etc. It was busy, and a woman came in on the lunch rush and demanded a fitting. I politely told her that I was very sorry, but all the fitters were booked and with other customers for the next hour or so I could help her a bit, but can't give one attention, as I'm helping all the other rooms too, so if she wanted the full thing she would need to pop back tomorrow or later. She flew off the handle, telling me how busy and important she was, that she had made a special trip, she can't come back tomorrow, I should help her etc. She was really rude, aggressive and mean. I just politely repeated that I was very sorry, but I couldn't help her for the reasons above. We just had no free staff. She ranted a while but then left. A few minutes after she went downstairs, I got a call from one of the till girls, saying a customer was complaining about the young girl on the fitting desk, who refused to help her, even though she could see spaces on the list, and had been rude, and had been swearing at her, and wanted to see the manager about it. It should be noted I was about 24 at the time, but looked really young, maybe 18. She clearly had no idea I was the manager. I told the desk girl I would be down shortly. I walked down those steps so slowly with a huge shit-eating grin, to let the horrible woman slowly recognize who I was. When she saw it was me, her face was just a picture. I played along asking for a description of the girl who was so rude, as that is very much outside our standards. I am shocked to hear such a thing happened. I was upstairs at the time and certainly would have intervened if I had heard such a thing etc. Shit-eating grin on full power the whole time. She had caused such a scene that all the people in the shop were staring at us. So, she either had to admit she had been lying and trying to get what she thought was some poor shop girl fired, or she had to make up a description with me obviously going to be saying things like, no one here looks anything like that, try again. She just was at a loss for words, her mouth agape gasping for air, bright red, not making eye contact. I forget if she said anything at all, but she stood there for a long while, and just left. I have never felt such satisfaction as I did walk down those stairs knowing what was about to happen.